The Binding of the Sea Serpent. Number 3. Welcome back, family. Let's dig in. Back on Stellarium. In our last video, we ended up here with 220p McNaught. And we are on the day of the eclipse, and we have the alignment with 220p McNaught and the head of Cetus. Now, if you've been following along and you've been a subscriber for a while, then you know all about Cetus and the bands of Pisces, the hands of this beast hold the line. This line is actually connected in the Mazzaroth. There's not a gap here. This line runs all the way through. It's a connected line because this is the hands of the beast of the underworld holding the bands of the fish. So we have to have that in our understanding in order for us to grasp all of these signs that are happening in the heavens. And then we need to talk about this river Eridanus and this constellation called Fornax. This is going to become very, very, very important. All of these are connected. You can see the hand of Cetus reaching into this river Eridanus and Fornax and Horologium, along with the phoenix bird, are all connected to the end of this river that comes out of the constellation of Orion. And there are actually star lore depictions in some Mazzaroth artwork where the water being poured from Aquarius is actually traveling through the heavens and comes over here to Orion. And this is the waters that we get for this Eridanus. So I wanted to just drop that. There's many different ancient mythological stories that have been told in order to put the pieces together for this entire thing. It's a grand story in the heavens. And so what we're doing is we're just following the signs. We're putting the pieces of this puzzle together. Eridanus is considered either a river of water as a blessing, or it can be a river of fire. And that's where we have this connection to Fornax, the furnace constellation. So, what we're looking at is the binding of the sea serpent Cetus. This is the beast from the underworld. And it's important to have it's important for us all to have the right understanding of these constellations. In some cases, there's dual meaning within each constellation, and this can be seen with especially signs like Pisces, where there's two fifths. So we can dig deep into these constellations and look for both sides of the story. What we're going to do here is we're going to be talking about this constellation being a sign of this beast from the underworld. And we're going to be talking about how these bands of Pisces that are being controlled by this sea serpent actually turn on the beast from the sea, and he gets bound with his own bonds. He is bound and then enters into judgment. And we're going to show you this binding process. And this 220p McNaught is directly involved in our signs of this binding. And so we went back to 2014. We looked at the signs connected with this comet. We went to 2017. We looked at the signs that were associated. And this comet has been involved in all of the signs. If you haven't watched part 1 and 2, it's vital to go back before we get any further. If you're new here, go back to part 1, begin there. Well, otherwise, you're going to be missing a big part of the information. If you're wondering why I'm slurring, it's because I just went through my mouth surgery, so we'll just leave it there. If you're new, please forgive me. I just went through mouth surgery, so we're doing our best. But we're going to have some, there's going to be some sound. It's going to sound off, and if you're new, you'll wonder why. Please forgive me. It's a surgery thing. And in order for me to keep these video series going, I have to just continue and rock through this. I will make an update in the community section and give everybody an update on how I'm doing, but this has been the roughest time of my life, but I do not want to miss this. I really should just be resting and taking my time, but I'm here as a servant for the body of Messiah, so I hope this blesses everybody that watches it. This is 220p McNaught on the 12th, the same day as our solar eclipse making its alignment, and I don't think that is a coincidence. So I wanted to come back to this point right here and then move forward. So let me check through and make sure I've got all of these. Now we're going to go to this final sign that we're going to point out for now. We're going to probably come back and continue with this, but I'm going to just get us to the next point, and we're going to be looking at let's center in, and we're going to be working all the way through until this point here. And I want everybody to pay attention to this point right here. And this is on September the 6th. Comet 220p McNaught enters into the golden gate of the ecliptic. It enters the Taurus constellation into the golden gate of the ecliptic. And this is on September the 6th, family. So I wanted to make sure we see this comet. The next alignment is where it enters the golden gate of the ecliptic. And you can see this section. I just do not like when this kind of stuff happens. Hopefully we didn't lose this family. This does this sometimes, and you just lose the sometimes you'll lose them and you won't be able to bring it back up. Forgive me. I have a lot of head congestion still, so please forgive me. My infection is not fixed, and it's inside of my jawbone, and it causes an incredible amount of head swelling, have swelling in the back of my neck and in the back of my skull, and it causes an incredible amount of sinus drain, and my body, because of the sinus drain, it ends up in my lungs. And this has been a wild ride. So if you hear me coughing or snorting, again, just forgive me. I'm doing my best. Continue to keep me in your prayer. All right, so 9/6/2026, Comet 220P reaches the golden gate of the ecliptic. And if you remember back, if you remember back to our Golden Gate signs, for everybody who saw that series, we are still looking at what I would consider wedding signs. Because let's do this really quick. I believe I have it here. All right. On 8/13, the day after this alignment, family, of 220P McNaught and the head, we have this alignment with Esther and the connection of the bands of Pisces, this Gaia DR2 star, and we're going to go ahead and go back to Esther, and we can see Esther's making this alignment on the 13th with this band star, and we can see Vesta and Pallas are both here in this constellation. Let's just do this quickly. I want everybody to pay attention. We have Vesta and Pallas are inside of the constellation, and Saturn and Neptune are in Pisces with Esther. Okay, so we can see that there is a story going on here between the Pisces constellation and the Cetus constellation. So I want everybody to pay attention to this. We're going to be showing you how these signs are all related. Now, Vesta, we know Vesta is the Virgin. And Callus, I want to make sure I have all of this. Make sure I have this down right. I won't just give me 1 second, family. I have a note in here. Okay, here we go. Callus equals in the code Hadassah. And we all know Hadassah is the Hebrew name for Esther. And one of the other codes that we have within Palace is a Magdalene confirmation. Now, Palace also equals lost sheep. And if you remember the words of Christ, we are looking at him saying that has come for the lost sheep of the house of Israel. And so Callus equals the lost sheep of the house of Israel, family. And we are looking at Pallas and Vesta along with our 220p McNaught doing the binding of the serpent. And we can see here that 220p McNaught doesn't reach the Taurus constellation until 9/6. And so it is involved in our binding signs until the 6th, and then it goes into the house of judgment, family, into the Taurus constellation or the house of judgment. So I want everybody to pay attention to these signs, and we're looking at the transition of this 220p McNaught, and the final sign of this comet for now will be on the 6th of September. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to transfer over here. We're going to be looking at Esther. And let's see if we can do this without. We're going to probably. Let me do this real quick, family. This is probably going to cause us to. Oh, we have her. Okay. All right. So it's gonna. All we have to do is scroll in. We're gonna be looking at this Cetus constellation, family, and I want everybody to pay attention to the constellation. And now what we're going to do is we're going to scroll in until we find Esther. And we're just looking at Esther here. What happened? Okay, forgive me. This sometimes it takes, because of the way I have to do this, it will not stay focused. So forgive me, fam. I'm doing my best, but okay. So, let me just go ahead and focus in here on Esther, and we're going to get her back. Let's just go to 11, and we're going to scroll back. Okay, we can see here Esther on the 17th enters right here. You can see on the 17th, Esther enters into the Cetus constellation family. So that's what I wanted to point out. Esther is currently in Pisces, but she's going to join Vesta and Pallas in the house of Cetus on the 17th. So I got to take a break really quick. I'll be right back. Okay. So let's get back with Esther. So now we know that Esther on the 17th is back inside the house of Cetus. And now we're looking at Esther, Vesta, Pallas, and the comet all inside of the house of the whale. Remember, Cetus is called the whale. This is also called the dragon of the underworld, the sea serpent. There's actually two sea serpents in the Mazzaroth. We'll go into that later. It's another connection to the river Eridanus and Horologium, the clock in heaven. So we'll be going into that in this series. It's very important that we watch this entire series. This is involved in our wedding signs because we have Esther, Vesta, the virgins, and the lost sheep of the house of Israel, all involved in this sign now. We're looking at the 17th. In 2 days, family, Esther will re-enter into this house. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to look at multiple signs with Esther, and I believe these are all involved in our wedding signs also, but we need to walk our way through this entire storyline. So first, we're going to go back to 6-9. We're going to be looking at this believe it's actually 12 hours right here. Okay, so I wanted to point out this sign here. This is a very, very, very important sign in the heavens on June the 9th. We can see Esther is in the whale's tail with Neptune, the god of the underworld family. This is Neptune. Neptune is a equation to AP, the Sumerian Anunnaki god of the underworld. So we are going to portray this in Sumerian light, going back to all of the Sumerian, what they call mythology. I don't look at it that way. I believe that the Sumerians were where we get 70 to 80% of our Bible stories, family. Remember, Father Abraham was a Sumerian. They say Babylonian, but Abraham came out of Ur. And if you track back Ur, even though he was in the time of Babylon, Ur is ancient and is associated with the Sumerians. And all of the Babylonian wisdom and knowledge was handed down from the Sumerians. So we have Akkadian and Babylonian mythology comes after the Sumerians. And so if we look back at the ancient stories of Sumer, then Neptune was a representation of the god of the underworld, and you can look at Neptune as a key. So I wanted to point out this alignment here with Esther. Remember, Esther is our bride. She is our ultimate end times bride. So we're going to point that out, that Hadassah is our bridal story. So next, we're going to go to 6:30. I want everybody to look at the journey here of Esther. And we can see now Esther on the 30th of June has now made its alignment with Saturn. And Saturn is a representation of the brother of Enlil. So we now have Esther marking both of the Anunnaki gods, and both of these gods are sitting. Let's do this really quick. I just want want everybody to see this. Both of these Anunnaki gods are sitting just above the house of Cetus and just below the fish bands. Saturn is actually sitting at, if you look here, family, at the bands of Pisces, this lower band is wrapped around the fish tail and comes back and ends right here at Saturn at this point on 6:30. I want everybody to pay attention to these band signs because Enlil was the highest god of the Sumerian pantheon. Now we can look at Anu as the father of Enki and Enlil, but it was Enlil who was given authority over the planet Earth. And he was the god of the heavens, the judge. Some equate this Saturn to the god of the Jews, the Saturn hexagon, the star of Remphan. This is why you have the Sabbath on Saturn's day. And that goes very deep. We're not going to get into all of that conjecture here, but what we're doing is we're pointing out the signs, and we have our Esther marking Saturnus on 6/30, 2026. Esther is marking Saturnus or Enlil. Okay. Now we're going to go to 7/18. And forgive me as I do this, but I want everybody to look at this sign in the heavens as Esther and Pallas align here. This is 7/18. We're looking at Esther and Pallas aligning. Again, remember, family, Esther is Hadassah. And Pallas in the code equals Hadassah. And lost sheep. And Magdalene confirmation, family. So we're looking at our wedding sign still. And I have been spending a lot of time trying to figure out why in the world we're now transitioning from all these wedding signs to now Esther and Vesta and Pallas are entering into this house of Cetus. Why, Father? Why are these wedding figures, after all this time, entering into this underworld sign? And then I began to see the pattern, and it blew me away. This is the binding of this serpent from the underworld. If we watch what I'm about to show you next, is the patterns of all of these asteroids literally making a binding. If you were to lay down a track, which I'm gonna see if I have a way to do that. Um, I'm gonna see if I can figure out a way to lay down a track. If any of you know how I can do that, let me know in the comments. Um, I'm going to work on that for another video, but I wanted to point out Esther is now making its alignment on the 18th of July with Pallas. And we've already talked about this Hadassah involved in our wedding signs with Vesta the Virgins right there. Okay, now our next one is on 8-3. So now I want everybody to pay attention to this one. This is now Esther and Vesta on August the 3rd. Now we have Esther and Vesta aligning in the Mazzaroth. This is what I would consider the bride and the virgins aligning here in the house of Pisces. 8-3. Now let's scroll in and we can see, let's go. I just want everybody to see this next sign. This is on a 4. We have Esther coming into alignment with this band of Pisces. All right, this is 8-4 family. And then we have on 8, I believe it's on the 11th. Here we are on the 11th. We have Esther marking the northern fish band family. This was 4 days ago. We have Esther marking the northern band, and then right before that, the southern band, or what we would consider the eastern band, and Vesta. So again, these are virgin and bride. So Esther is marking the bands of the fish, and just finished marking the bands of the fish. And then again, I showed you that Esther on the 17th here. Let me pull this back. So we have Esther is now in the house of Cetus, and it happens right after she marks the 2 bands of the fish. So very important signs showing us our wedding guests are now in the house of the whale. I want everybody to pay attention. This is the house of the whale. If you look at this, if you look at the house of the whale, it goes all the way up and it touches the golden gate of the ecliptic. We can see this here, family. This is the 220p McNaught on the 6th. So now it's, let's go ahead and go back. We're going to be looking at our time right now today. 220p McNaught has just exited the head region of Cetus. It's still in the artwork head, but it's still in the constellation of Cetus. I bet if we scroll in really close, we'll be able to get it in here. Let's see. Forgive me, fam. It's not showing up here. And I don't want to take the time because it's right here. We have it here. I've spent my time doing the work to get these things available for us. Because if you're new, I have a problem with my computer, and for some reason, I haven't been able to load the actual Stellarium program. So I'm having to do this from Stellarium Web, and it won't save my work. If you're familiar with Stellarium Web, we're doing our best. I'm expecting to be able to get back to work here soon, and that's going to allow me to rectify a lot of the problems I have. I don't have resources to rectify these now. So we are looking at 220p McNaught still being in the head of the whale. And we are going to go to Esther here. Now we know on the 17th that Esther's now in the house of Cetus. Okay, now we showed that. Now we're going to go to I have to make sure I get all of these signs. Esther and Palace, Esther and Vesta. Okay, now we're going to 10-1 family. And I want everybody to witness this sign here, because this is, to me, it's absolutely incredible. This is one of the most important signs we can ever see. This is October the 1st, family, 2026. You are looking at Esther cutting off the head of the sea serpent or the whale or the beast of the underworld, the dragon of the underworld. Esther cuts off the head of this beast on 10/1/2026, family. And then on 10/18, I want everybody to see this. This was just awesome to me because I've spent years and years doing my best to understand. I've read everything I can get my hands on. Every day I research the Maseroth. Every day, hours a day spent hunting the signs in the heavens, and to see Esther cut off the head and then enter the heart of Cetus. This is where the heart of the beast would be, in the Maseroth. And Esther is literally striking the heart of the sea serpent or the whale. Esther strikes the heart on 10/18, family. Esther strikes the heart. Okay, and now I want to point you to another very important sign. We're going to move to asteroid Herculina. All right, family, this is vital heavenly language. We have all of these asteroids that I've already done work on, years of working on decoding the heavenly signs of all of these asteroids. You can go back. I've been working on these for years. So anybody who says that these asteroids are not part of the Bible and the stars, anybody tells you that these things don't matter, they are lacking wisdom. Because every star, every asteroid, every comet, every planet, everyone is involved in a grand story. And this is the Maseroth. And the language is day by day, night by night, minute by minute. There's not a second that goes by where the Father is not declaring his story. And now we're looking at Herculina. So we're going to take a step back. And then we're going to come back to just keep this real. I want everybody to look at what we're looking at here in the heavens. This is asteroid Herculina. And what we're looking at is this asteroid making alignment with the tail of the whale. This is Herculina grabbing the tail of the beast of the underworld. And look right above, we have Mercury the messenger. On this day, family, you have Mercury above, Vesta in the water stream, the moon in the water stream, the bridegroom directly between the bands of Pisces, the wedding judge right above the head of the whale, and here is Herculina aligned with the tail of the beast. Okay, family, we're going to end it here. What I want to point out that I found with Herculina, and this is going to become very important in all of our signs. Herculina equals the foolish virgin. So please write that down if you have to. We have multiple signs. We have Pallas equaling the lost sheep. We have Vesta as the virgins. We can see Vesta as the wise virgin. And now we have Herculina as the foolish virgins. And all of these are in the house of Cetus, and they're all doing the binding. You won't believe this. When we come back, we're going to show you the paths of all of these asteroids, and it's going to blow your mind. This is the binding of the sea serpent. Part 3. We're coming back for part 4. Much love, family.